Hey, let's chat for a second. So, I actually had this experience a couple of days ago. As you guys may know, I am doing my midwifery clinical. This clinical semester, I am at home birth practice, really getting a chance to do a lot of hands on care with people in the comfort and privacy um, of their own spaces. And I went into a beautiful couple's home the other day. And when I walked in, you know how sometimes your eye just kind of like catches certain things? My eye caught three things that um, kind of elevated my awareness a little bit more. The first thing was there was a lot of Christian documents and books, Bibles, literature, things like that. Now, as a Christian, that does not bother me at all. However, this just so happened to be a white couple. And shortly after I noticed the Christian books and literature, I noticed a book. My eye caught the name of a book on the bookshelf called The Case for Christian Nationalism, a book that quite literally, as its title suggests, makes a case for why Christian nationalism is important and should be something that's embraced within this country, which, as a Christian, I don't personally agree with. The second thing, or the third thing, I guess at this point, that really kind of like heightened my awareness was this family had a Trump cap that was sitting on their dresser. Now, I feel like in the moment, these were all things that I was like made aware of mentally and kind of like took stock of in the back of my head because I was not there to assess their home. I was there to support this woman and her family in progressing her labor along and bringing her child into the world. And that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. No questions asked, no second feelings, no second hesitation, just jumped right in. And at the end of it, the family made a decision.
Voice just cracked like crazy.
The family made a decision to continue the progression of the labor course at the hospital. So this team that I was with, my preceptor and her assistant, we kind of took charge and making sure the house was cleaned up and things were where they could be a little bit more manageable for whenever the family came back home. And I walked past the husband and I let him know that I had just, done some things in the bedroom to clean up. And the first thing he did without vocalization, without hesitation, was he leaned in and gave me the biggest hug. Like the biggest hug. It literally took me totally off guard. And my brain just like started churning. My brain just started churning and I realized something that like I always knew deep down, but one, I'm called to do this work. I feel called to do this work. I feel called by God to do this work for everyone. And that birth and labor and being with people in some of the most vulnerable times is when we actually see people's true character and when people are able and how people are able to see our true character. And I had a mentor back when I was in undergrad, and she had a phrase, a saying for her practice, a saying for um her business model that she created, which was birth is the revolution. And this idea that the radicalness, the freedom, the innateness, the spiritual component of birth, of labor, of supporting people, of pushing through and doing this thing, really is revolutionary. And being in someone else's home, being in someone else's space, and getting what I feel anybody would have is like a knee jerk reaction to something or someone, and you kind of have those like thoughts that come into the front of your head, but then you take a second and you realize that like those things are in and of themselves some form of judgment, and that should not be how we address each other. I know that can be harder said than done, or easier said than done. But I think that it's true that action, that hug, that acknowledgement of gratitude in that moment meant a lot after my brain had been keeping, certain things in the back of my head for upwards of around 12 hours, you know. So if you made it to the end of the video and listened to me just ramble my thoughts off, I don't know. I would love to hear what your thoughts are about what happens when when you have an interaction with somebody who you don't expect to have an interaction with, right? And that interaction goes well, or maybe the interaction does it. But what do you do? What do you learn from it? And how do you walk away? You know? Thanks for talking with me.